watch certain gestures, because even like moving at her suddenly would startle her, because flashbacks to some of the abusive stuff she went to. She went and locked herself in the room with the phone. She knew, almost like she didn't want any help. So it was very strange, very strange.
He hit mama, he choked mama, he hit me, and she started getting hysterical. So he would stalk my kids when they got off the bus.
A survey centered on domestic violence funded by the Avon Foundation for Women states that 54 million Americans have claimed that they have been a sufferer of domestic violence. More than half of all Americans aged 15 and older know of someone suffering from domestic violence, but only a small percentage, 15% to be exact, believe it is a problem among their friends. Also, based on reports from 10 countries, between 55% and 95% of women who had been assaulted physically by their partners had never contacted any non-governmental organizations, shelters, or their local police for help. To sum this all up, there's a lot of domestic violence occurring and a lot of situations end up unresolved or ignored. The reasons behind why domestic violence victims take abuse vary. It could be
It was the sense of need. You needed this person she needed him for something, and then all of this eventually came along within the territory.
Kids liked him. He was fun. He played basketball, football, all those different sports, and he helped the kids out, gave them $1 or $2, every now and then.
Or whatever reasons there may be. However, as a friend of someone you may suspect be a victim of domestic violence, male or female, there are ways to ask about it.
When you talk to that person, at all costs avoid attacking him, because that's not going to work. That's human nature. I would say, are you afraid to go home? That one little question that opens the door to the victim and lets them know you know what's going on.
There are signs to look for and different ways to approach the situation.
Be there, a listening ear. Listen to what they're telling you, because if you listen to the conversation, you can tell what's being done in the house.
Domestic violence isn't limited to a certain class. As explained by Cheryl Branch during our interview, it can affect anyone, mainly women with low self-esteem.
The thing about our clients, it's like a cross-section of this whole community. I've worked with people in public housing, people in gated communities, people in historic district, waterfront property, and the one thing they all have in common is that low self-esteem. And you don't know what they're going home to. And I've worked with women that were very successful professionals that certainly had the education, they had the financial wherewithal. Everybody out in the community these would be women that somebody would envy. And one of these women told me one time that when I go home, I'm about this big.
The effects of domestic violence on friends and family members are negative, to say the least.
It's a kind of a hopeless feeling, but you, like I said, you really want to help someone, but you just really can't until they're ready to take that step.
To family and friends, remember to be mindful of one particular theme that perpetrators put a victim through.
He isolated me. I wasn't able to go anywhere with anybody unless he went with me.
One of the things about the dynamics of domestic violence is that the perpetrator tries to isolate the victim from family and friends, and probably says things like, your family never liked me, your friends never liked me, blah, blah, blah.
For what she was, and she would talk to her mother a lot still, I do know that much. And the isolation, I think, was one of the biggest. For one, when she got involved with someone like that, he kept her almost to himself. It was almost like a control thing.
Now that you know the effects of domestic violence on the victim's friends, family members, and the victim themselves, it is important to know of your resources and who you can reach out to in case you encounter domestic violence.
They can always call the shelter. They can talk to anybody at the shelter and ask questions. We can give them information, give them phone numbers. Our crisis line is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never an answering machine, always a trained staff person, and it's 629-8888.